This is ODAT Chat, your instant connection to recovery and community, one day at a time. This podcast may contain strong language, sexual content, and spiritual truth. Listener discretion is advised.
This podcast is brought to you by the ODAT Chat closed Facebook group. If you hear something on the podcast that you'd like to discuss, or if you need support for your recovery, you can hop on over to the closed Facebook group. To join, just visit odatchat.com and look for the big old blue Facebook logo on the right. I look forward to chatting with you there. Hi friend, welcome to ODAT Chat. My name is Arlena and I'll be your host. The primary purpose of the podcast is to carry the message of hope to those who are suffering from addiction and alcoholism. My guests and I talk about their addiction stories, what happened, what it was like, and what a life of sobriety looks like now. Through these conversations, I'm hoping to uncover the new ideas, changes in perspective, and the daily habits or routines that lead to healing and long-term recovery. So I have a quote for you today from Sarah Ban Breathnach. I think that's how you say her name. The author of the hugely popular book, Simple Abundance. She writes, "You simply will not be the same person 2 months from now after consciously giving thanks to each day for the abundance that exists in your life. And you will have set in motion an ancient spiritual law. The more you have and are grateful for, the more will be given to you." That is actually in line with the truth that whatever we think about, we bring about, or whatever we focus on expands. So Simple Abundance spent 2 years on the New York Times bestseller list, the first year in the #1 spot, which is amazing. I remember when it first came out, I think it was like 1995, I saw her interviewed on Oprah, and the audience members shared how doing gratitude lists every day for 30 days changed their lives. So I thought I'd give it a shot. For me, it had like a subtle but profound effect. It's probably been one of the most consistent practices, along with prayer and, to a lesser degree, meditation. For accountability, I write a list of 5 things I'm grateful for every day. I take a pic with my phone and I send it to a friend, typically my sponsor. And she actually does the same thing. She does one and sends it back to me. So it kind of gives you a little bit of accountability. And it's kind of cool to see what other people are grateful for too. So give it a try and let me know your experience. So today's conversation is with my friend Todd. I've known him for over 20 years. I've seen him go through a lot. I've seen him evolve and grow into the person he is today. My kids love him. He's a great guy. And Todd, if you are listening, my friend, I want you to know that I am very proud of you. So with that, please enjoy this episode with Todd. So Todd, welcome to the ODAT Chat podcast.
Thanks for having me, Arlena. Appreciate it.
I'm super excited to have you on because I have known you my entire sobriety. So I got sober in 94. So did you start coming around right about then?
Actually, 1993 to 96, Bob sponsored me.
Okay.
And so I think I probably had about a year sober when you came around.
Oh, wow.
I think you had
really?
about 4 to 6 months sober.
Wow.
Yeah, I think you had 4 months when you met Bob, right? Or was it 6?
About 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
We were calling it 5.
Okay.
24 years later almost.
Okay.
It gets a little hazy.
I said 4 to 6. 5's right in the middle, right?
Perfect. Yeah. Genius. You were absolutely right. That's awesome. So typically the way I start out, because this is a podcast, I sort of want the listeners to get a visual image of you. So
Sure.
What do you look like?
I'm schmedium build.
Medium?
No, I'm just kidding. Kind of stocky guy, you know. Not very tall. On a good day, I'm a 5'8", maybe on a good day.
Yeah.
Most days it's 5'7", though. Depending on the shoes, I guess that matters, right?
Right.
But I'm.
You got a couple tattoos?
Yes, yeah.
We're gonna talk about it.
I'm sleeved, yeah.
We'll talk about a couple of them.
Yeah, and I'm looking to start working on my legs next.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah.
Do you already know what you want?
One leg is going to be all skateboarding, like Powell Peralta themed.
Okay.
Which is a company that I grew up, using their skateboards, like major skateboards like Tony Hawk, Steve Caballero. Those kind of guys were on the Powell Peralta team.
Right. Caballero's a local boy, right?
Yeah. Actually, he just moved to Huntington Beach, so he's down there now. Yeah.
Got it.
And then my left leg is going to be all Star Wars themed. So that's the goal.
That you were a fan.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I love you just that much more.
Huge Marvel fan too.
Can't
wait for the Avengers movie coming out soon. Yes.
Okay. You like all of them.
Oh
right?
yeah, I was a comic book geek growing up.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll totally ask you about that. Don't let me forget.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what you look like, and what do you do professionally?
Actually, I'm right along the same field as you, Arlena. I'm doing SaaS sales.
Okay. Slinging software in Silicon Valley.
Yeah. It's a tough.
Living the dream.
It's a tough gig, I'm doing enterprise sales, so the sales cycle's a little bit longer, 6 months to a year, 6 months, 9 months, somewhere along those lines. So to see my hard work come to fruition takes a little while.
Takes
right?
a little while.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the payoff is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen, I think it's hard to get out once you get in, right? It's
yes.
like a mafia.
Exactly.
It's painful, but it pays well.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome.
And I'm grateful. I have a great job. Never thought I would have a 401k or a medical insurance, my own dental insurance, right? Stuff like that. As a kid, I took as for granted.
Yeah, and you're educated now, and
it's amazing.
God,
they let me in college.
Right?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. No, you've come a long way. You've changed a lot over the time period that I've known you, and you're a wonderful man today, and I love you dearly. And
oh, thank you.
So I'm excited that we're going to have this chance to sort of get into it, and I have this opportunity to ask you about all the questions that I've never had a chance to ask you about. So
okay.
Let's start out with, did you hear I had Mark Lundholm on the podcast?
Oh, I bet he had you laughing a lot.
Yeah, he was pretty good, but it was so funny because I always ask about family of origin, and he's calling that foo. I was like, you were so silly. So I've been asking people about their foo from now on.
All right.
Yeah, so your family of origin. So
sure.
Did you grew up around here?
Yes, I did. Yeah. So I was actually born at Good Samaritan, which is a couple miles from here, a hospital, in November of 73.
November what?
21st, yeah.
Oh, okay. Gosh, we're close. You're a Scorpio then, huh?
Yes, I'm a Scorpitarius. I'm right on the cusp.
Scorpitarius.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a word. That's good. Okay, and do you have siblings?
I do. I have a sister and a brother.
Older or younger?
Younger.
Both are younger?
Yes.
Okay, you're
I'm
the oldest of three. Mm-hmm. And do all three of you have the same parents?
No. So I'm the only child from my mom and dad.
Okay.
And then my brother and sister are from my mom and my stepdad.
Oh, okay.
So we're half
so
brother and sister.
You're half. Okay, and two half. How far apart are you guys?
We're all 7 years apart.
What?
Yeah, so my baby brother is 14 years younger than me.
Whoa, so you didn't grow up with them?
Yes and no, right? My brother not as much. We got to know each other better later.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. But you and your sister, are you close with your siblings?
Fairly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Did your stepdad raise you?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
What was your biological dad?
Well, he was an alcoholic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there was a bunch of incidences that my mom told me about, right? He couldn't take care of me. He couldn't hold the job. Was more or less insanely drunk a lot. Had some run-ins with the police. So he left when I was probably about a year old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You were young.
And I think that the only reason why my parents got married was because they were both Catholic, and that's what you do when you get pregnant, right?
Right.
You can't bring a child out of wedlock. I mean,
right.
I mean things have changed now, but
right.
Yeah. So that was like, you don't want to bring shame on the family, stuff like that. Right?
Shame on the family.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were really young, and so how old was your mom when she got you? Do you know?
I think she was 21 or 22.
Okay, so she was really young. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then she was on her own with just you.
Right.
And then...
So we grew up in... I grew up with her. It was just her and I. Mm-hmm. We were in low-income housing over there off of Merrill Drive.
in sunny Santa Clara?
No, it's right around the corner. It's off of
In
Camden,
Oh, okay.
in between 85 and Cougar.
I know that area.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I get
Behind it used to be called the Jungle or whatever. I don't know if it's back behind
Okay,
there.
so and then she meets your stepdad.
Right.
And what kind of a guy is he? Do you have a relationship with him? Or?
So, how can I put this?
We can put it mildly.
So he when they met, he worked at either Albertsons or Oral Wheat. He worked in a grocery store, and then he ended up becoming a police officer.
Oh, he was.
Yes, yeah. So he was career San Jose PD for a lot of years.
I did not know that.
Yeah, super controlling, authoritarian, really strict.
Typical.
Yeah.
Brought his work home.
Exactly.
Okay.
Didn't know how to separate the two.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so he raised the three of you with the disciplinarian. Okay, so strict parents. Strict, and they were both Catholic. Or is he Catholic?
No, he was. He claimed atheist, but he came from a Methodist background.
Okay.
And then I don't know how my mom did it, but she converted him to Catholicism.
Women have our ways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So,
Okay, so you
so
ended up.
he had some experience, right? But I don't know if he has strong belief in a higher power to this day.
Okay, maybe he did it to keep the peace. Kind
Exactly.
of thing.
Exactly.
He is a peace officer.
Or a codependent. Who knows?
Judging, just saying. Okay. All right. So they're nice people. Do you have a relationship with them today?
My mom and I are pretty close.
Okay.
My stepdad and I, we're polite and cordial to each other.
Not close.
We're not close. We talk about things that don't go too deep.
Got it.
Superficial stuff.
Okay. Different political views and.
No, we didn't. No. That's one thing. No. Don't dive into politics or religion either.
Oh, okay. Stay away from. So you talk about the weather and work.
Yeah, whatever. Right? What am I doing? Yeah.
Sports.
Yeah, something. Paintings. I don't know. He's into photography. That's always a safe one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I'm kind of into that, and so is he.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
well, you found your common ground.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
Okay. So when you were growing up, how old were you when you started? What did you start using? Did you start drinking or using? Or?
So my dad came back in the picture. My real father, biological father, a bio dad, came back into the picture when I was about 10 years old, and he showed up, at my parents' condo, my mom and stepdad's condo on Maris Court, when I was about 10, and he showed up with like a sleeping bag and. That was a gift for my birthday or whatever.
Oh, you meant right? He was wanting to sleep over.
No. Okay. And I'm like, oh, I gone for 10 years and you come with a sleeping bag and that's supposed to make up for all the time you were gone?
Right.
Okay.
You're really pissed?
Yeah.
Are you really angry?
Yeah, I'd say so. More hurt.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's okay. But wait, let me
So growing up without a dad, especially in the neighborhood that I grew up in, there was a lot of teasing going on or seeing other kids with their dads and having, or they were, taking them to T-ball or whatever, right? Yeah. And I didn't have that.
And you really missed it? That
yeah.
was like a huge void for you?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Your stepdad didn't fill that void at all?
Somewhat, but not really. It wasn't genuine.
Oh, he felt like he was doing it out of obligation? They didn't really like you? Or...
I was more of just something he had to deal with because...
A burden.
Yeah.
You felt like a burden. Oh,
yeah.
That's a terrible feeling for a little kid. Yeah. But he did show up to some extent. Like, did you play sports when you were growing up?
Yeah, but I quit everything.
Oh, okay.
Right? They always try to get me into things, and for one reason or another, I would quit.
They would push you into things?
Yes, like soccer and, Little League, stuff like that. Music... I wanted to play saxophone, but the clarinet was cheaper, right? Stuff like that, right? But then when I discovered skateboarding, they didn't support me with that. I found something that I loved.
But that's sort of an independent, that's not really like an organized
sport thing. No. I mean, but now it's like huge. They have the X Games and all that, right? And I was motivated by that. I loved doing it because I was good at it.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, but it must have been hurtful to you that they didn't support that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. So do you feel like when you were growing up that like, because I keep coming back to this central theme that in our childhood, a lot of people, like, their addiction is born out of like childhood trauma or pain. And it sounds like you had the same reoccurring pain or trauma. I'm going to call it trauma because I think it sounded like you really missed having a dad that treated you like you were like his special son, right? Yeah. And that happened. Does that make you sad? I'm so sorry. Where's the tissue? I usually have some.
That's okay. I'll use my t-shirt.
Okay. Here, we'll just mask it with humor.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I usually do. Sorry.
That's okay. No.
But that's, you know what, that's not uncommon, is that these childhood pains are at the root cause of our addiction, because it's like we don't feel like we're worthy enough, or we're managing our emotions. Like, we can learn to stuff it, but we learn to manage our painful emotions with drugs and alcohol. So I'm just wondering if that was do you feel like that was your experience?
Yeah, I would say that that's part of it. I'm just thinking back to the first time that my dad like lashed out at me. So my stepdad, I was probably 6 or 7, and you know how little kids can be like, hey, like tugging on your, trying to get your attention. I think he was on the phone, and he just snapped at me, like, get off of me, or whatever, right? And just
scared the shit out of you.
Oh
probably.
yeah. And so after that moment,
it crushed your little heart.
I just didn't trust him.
Right.
You know.
He never apologized?
No, but then he would, when my mom was there, he treated me one way. When she wasn't there, he treated me another way.
Got it.
So he showed his true colors when she wasn't around.
So you learned.
But then, as time went on, more and more of his true self came out, right? And he was more and more abusive.
Oh, really? Over time?
Oh, yeah.
I would imagine.
He's a rageaholic.
I would imagine that job causes stress, and he had no way of managing that stress.
Yeah.
A lot of cops turn into alcoholics. Was he a drinker at all?
Not really. Moderate to little. He couldn't handle his booze. I remember seeing him getting sick a few times when he drank too much.
Right. Well, that was my experience almost every time I drank.
Well, no. I mean, it wasn't. Yeah. So
Okay,
he was like a beer or two, you know, to
Okay.
unwind sometimes. You know.
But he would rage. That's how.
Yes.
So all his anger, everything he was suppressing during the day, would come out at night.
Right. It's probably something he learned from his father, right?
Of course, yeah. I would imagine that's a very difficult profession to be in, and I'm not trying to slander our law enforcement people, but that's a tough job,
I
right?
am.
You might have other reasons. Yeah. So, okay. So, all right. So, stepdad shows his true colors, gets worse over time. And what that does to your little boy self is that you learn not to trust. You feel like you're not loved. I don't mean to be putting words in your mouth.
That's accurate.
Okay, that's accurate. Okay, so how old were you when you first started drinking or used? Do you remember what was first, alcohol or?
So actually, cigarettes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know, that's probably.
Or sugar probably was the first thing.
I know.
Sugar.
Well, every little kid's on sugar.
Yeah. Oh, I was stealing it. I would steal from the store. Yeah.
Oh, you would?
Oh, yeah.
You would shoplift from the store?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'd steal from my mom's purse, too, and take $5 at a time. If she had several fives, I would take one.
Right.
Right. And go and buy, I don't know, a cherry Coke and a Reese's peanut butter cup. Those are my favorite.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Salivating as we speak. I love maple sugar. Okay, so sugar was your first addiction, and then cigarettes. Who smoked, your mom or dad?
Well, so I was getting into that. So when my real father came into the picture, I actually went to stay with him for the summer.
Oh,
he asked me to come stay with him.
And
so
your
I stayed
mom
with
was
him.
okay with that?
Yeah.
Was he local?
No, he lived in the Fresno area.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, so I went and stayed with him, and while I was there, his roommate's daughter was older, and her and her friend were smoking cigarettes and thought it was a good idea to have me smoke as well.
Okay.
So that's how that started, and they actually blew marijuana smoke in my face, you know, to get me high. I don't think I ingested any marijuana, but I had an effect. And it was not a good experience initially.
Oh, it wasn't?
No, I was like super paranoid and freaked out. And
at 10.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And then I probably was drinking beer. And so then I went back to my mom and stepdad's, and then I started drinking beer and smoking marijuana on a regular basis because I went back to live with my real father because my stepdad and my mom couldn't handle me. I started rebelling and acting out a lot.
How old? Like after the summer, after that?
Pretty much, yeah. When I knew that I had another way out, and then I had ammunition against my stepdad when he would...
he was getting more abusive.
When he was abusive to me, I would say, "You're not my father. You can't tell me what to do." You know, I would fight back, and so there was more of that resistance when he would try to put down the gauntlet, right?
Okay, yeah.
So then they're like, "Well, we can't handle you." So
go live with your dad.
Yeah, so that's what happened, and that's pretty much where my addiction took off, because he was an alcoholic and an addict, and
you had access to all this stuff now.
Yeah, and not a good example, and he didn't really care what I did as long as I didn't affect him or bother him.
Okay.
Right? He didn't even really care that I did well in school.
So he got his act together enough to have a place and bring you. Okay, so how long did you live with your dad?
For 3 years.
Okay, so right about the time you were
13 to 16, yeah.
Oh, okay, so junior high and high school?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Your freshman or sophomore year?
Yeah.
And what happened that you went back to your mom's house?
Ooh, okay. So like I said, I was drinking and smoking marijuana on a regular basis. A lot of my friends were into punk rock and heavy metal and skateboarding, right? And so we liked to party. Right. And I hung out with a lot of older kids too.
Okay.
There were some kids my age, but a lot of older kids that had access to that kind of stuff, or they had cars, or we can get around, right?
Wow, yeah.
So I think I probably did LSD at around 14. I was a daily Coke user at the age of 15.
Where'd you get the money for that?
I had 2 jobs. I was a paper boy, and then I worked at Taco Bell, and I stole from my work.
Okay.
And anyone I could to support my habit.
Wow.
And my dealer was right around the corner from my house.
That's amazing.
So
isn't that shocking? I know, because like my husband Bob, he got sober at 18 and he was strung out on cocaine at 18. It's like,
yeah,
where do you get the money for that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing.
So one of the times I took LSD, I was grounded. And I was in my...
Your dad would ground you?
Yeah. So it was, I forget why, but my buddy Mike that was hanging out with me, I didn't share any with him because it's, you know what I mean? There wasn't enough. There was only enough for me.
I hear you.
So then he took off, went home. He was afraid his mom was going to kick him out, went home.
Right.
And so I was by myself on acid. And so that wasn't a good place to be.
On acid by yourself?
Yeah.
At 14? 15?
I think I was 15, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe 16, right around that time. And so what I did was I was grounded, but I took off. I either hopped out of the window or hopped the fence. One of those are usually my 2 ways in and out of the house.
The window?
Because I was always sneaking in and out, right?
Right.
When you hop the fence, there's like a railroad tracks and a canal right there. And I'd walk along, and then I could get to the liquor store.
Okay.
And so they knew me, so they would sell me cigarettes.
Wow.
Yeah, so at 16, right? So I bought a pack of cigarettes, went back home, and this was my thinking that I was just gonna like smoke the cigarettes and then like wave them around in the air because you have the cherry, right?
Yeah.
And when you wave the cherry around, you can see trails.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my plan, to kind of like enjoy it, right?
Yeah, entertain yourself.
Exactly. So when I came back in through the window, his girlfriend turned on the light and goes, "Here he is, Bob." And then
Your dad's name was Bob?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So then
Ironic.
he ran in and just beat the shit out of me. Yeah.
While you were on
He was
acid?
drunk. Yeah, he was drunk. He was in a drunk and I was bleeding everywhere, and
Oh, you mean bleeding?
yeah, he beat
Beat
me like a man would fight another man. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Todd.
Yeah.
Like bloody nose?
Oh yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
Mouth?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was until I curled up into a ball that he stopped.
Then he stopped.
Yeah.
Did you fight back at first?
No, I didn't even see it coming.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he just
Oh my
came in, yeah.
God. And this is the guy that was supposed to be there for you. This is the guy that you had been missing your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Was this? And he fucking lost his shit. Mm-hmm. Wow.
That wasn't the first time he'd done it before, and like
He had?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mostly it was he would not like beat me, but more like get the belt and whip the crap out of me, or slam me to the ground, stuff like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Or do you feel like you were? I mean, as an adult, you've been
Mm-hmm.
around. You've been around children.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, have you felt like you've been pushed to the edge? You never lost control around kids, or? I mean, that's a shitty question, but do you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't mean it like that, but it's like kids are difficult. Kids will push you to your breaking point.
Right. I kind of when my nephew acts out around me with my sister and my mom, I will pin him down and get him to stop. Yeah, kind of thing. Wrestle. More like, but not hurt him.
Restrain him so that he doesn't hurt anyone else.
Yeah, just kind of like, hey, dude, you're not in charge. Like, you need to chill out.
Okay.
Type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't call CPS. Okay. No, that's just, and listen, you're sober, so you don't lose control. So that's just really hard. I'm sorry to hear that you were treated that way. I mean, that's the kind of trauma that I'm talking about, right? It's like you were already experiencing trauma as a little boy, and then as
my stepdad was the same way, but he would actually pull my pants down and whip me with his police like leather belt.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
yeah. And then it got to a point where he would try to do it when I got older, and I would just laugh at him, and that just enraged him even further.
Right.
And I would just keep laughing at him.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. We find ways of fighting back even when we're compromised or at a disadvantage. I get it.
Yeah.
So
when I was about 16, I was back there with my mom and stepdad, and they had moved to the Evergreen area. And I was at my girlfriend's house. And if I was 1 minute late, I was in trouble.
With your girlfriend?
No. Home.
Oh.
I was expected to be home at 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
For dinner.
Oh, for dinner.
Right.
Okay.
And I missed that, and I was like, screw it, whatever. I'm already late. I'm just gonna chill here for whatever time. Probably rolled in around 9 o'clock. Right. Because what is it? 1 minute or 3 hours? It doesn't matter. I'm still in trouble.
Still in trouble.
Right. So that's the way I looked at it. And as soon as I came in, he was on me. He's like, get in there and do the dishes, and you get no dinner, and then go to bed. Right. So I went in there and I started doing the dishes, and I didn't feel good, and so I went and laid down. What are you doing? I thought you told you to do the dishes. And so this argument ensued, and my mom tried to break us up, and she told my dad to go to one room and me to go to another, or go to the living room. And then all of a sudden he comes back in there and sits in the living room. I go, what are you doing? I thought mom told you to go in the other room. He's like,
Mom told you.
Yeah. He's like, I can go wherever I want in my house. Right. But he liked to do that a lot. It's my house. I was like, okay, whatever. And I'd be like, no, it's not. Mom pays the bills too, or whatever, right? Yeah. And then he got in my face, and we were like nose to nose, and I could smell his breath, and I just shoved him, right? And I'd done some like martial arts. I'd done some wrestling. I was doing high school wrestling at the time.
Okay.
And then he charged at me, and I grabbed him in a headlock, and I just started punching him. And then I punched his head out of the headlock, and then when he came out of it, I continued to punch him a few more times, and then got him on the ground and kicked him while he was on the ground, curled up in a ball, and just kind of let all of that anger and abuse that he had laid on me all those years out in that one instance. And I think I broke his nose. I think I ruptured his eardrum. Yeah, I messed up. And then my mom and my sister, who was probably...
They must have been freaking out.
They were screaming. They were freaked out. And he was on the ground saying, call 911. And this is a cop. Getting his ass kicked by a 16-year-old kid, right?
Yeah.
Saying, call 911, I need help. Anyways, whatever. I thought it was funny. And then so I'm twisted. Whatever.
That's not fair. You're all karate kid. You're Ralph Macchio at this point. It wasn't a fair fight.
Yeah. So then... when he said that, I got freaked out and I ran, and then I ended up staying on my girlfriend's parents' couch.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. They took pity on you. And
right.
They knew what was going on at home.
Yes.
And they probably felt sorry for you.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow, that's intense. So you're almost an adult at this point. So did your drinking and using start to escalate from there? When did you feel like it started to become a problem? Because you got sober young.
Yeah, I started coming around. So actually, I went to that goes into my teenage years. So the first meeting I went to. So what happened was, because of that incident, those people contacted this family who had foster children, and they agreed to take me.
Oh, really?
And as long as my stepdad dropped the charge, because he pressed charges on me, I had charges for assault and battery and attempted burglary because I tried to break in the house and get my stuff. Oh. So they had charges on me. So he dropped the charges, and I went there.
Okay.
That was the agreement. So while I was there, I was going to tell you about the acid story.
Okay,
so here it is, right here.
Here's the acid
So
story.
I was in this place called the Pacific Center, which was at San Jose Medical Center. I was there because I attempted suicide.
Oh, we can't skip over that. How old were you when that happened?
16.
Was that the first and only time?
Oh, no, there's a few attempts.
At suicide?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to break this down for 1 second. Can we get in the weeds?
Sure,
a little bit?
Okay.
Because I think it is more common than we realize. That, I mean, our teenage years are really difficult. I felt like I was suicidal to some extent when I was around 14. And then I discovered drugs and alcohol, and that kind of helped me manage my feelings through that period. But what happened, because a lot of kids don't survive their teenage years because of suicide and depression. So how did you survive that suicidal period?
Well, at that time, they didn't know that Prozac increased suicidal ideation in teens. So they had me on Prozac.
Okay.
So I think that was part of the problem.
Okay. But you were on Prozac because you were depressed?
But the first attempt was like my girlfriend and I were fighting, the one I was staying with temporarily, and I took a handful of aspirin out of the thing and said, I'm going to go and lock myself in the bathroom. And I think I took 2 or 4 or whatever and then threw the rest in the toilet. But she didn't know that.
Okay.
So then so it was a cry for help.
The cry for help.
Yeah, yeah. And then there was one time I was in juvie hall, and they were giving me Prozac, and I kept cheeking it, which means I wasn't swallowing it. And then I saved up about 20 of them, and then I took them all, and then I woke up the next day with a headache and angry that I was still alive.
Oh, that was a serious.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
How old were you when that happened?
16.
You were 16.
Yeah. 16 was a rough year.
We laugh. The things that we laugh out. I was going to try to commit suicide. It's not hilarious.
It's more of a nervous laugh.
No, I know. Okay, so you saved 20 pills at 16. And where were you when that happened?
I was in juvenile hall.
What were you in juvenile hall for?
I don't remember. I was always in trouble for something.
You got arrested a lot?
Yeah, as a youth.
How many times did you get arrested?
Oh, I don't even know.
Vandalism, loitering.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever.
We'll just
breaking into houses, joyriding, taking cars.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah.
It's funny how you just kind of gloss over that.
Yeah.
No, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on.
Poor judgment.
Poor judgment. Drugs and alcohol.
Yep.
Illegal for a reason.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
Hanging out with bad people.
So you woke up and you were pissed that you were alive.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Did your mom find out? You were in
no.
juvenile hall. They didn't tell your mother?
I didn't. No, they didn't know. I didn't tell anybody. Yeah.
Oh my God. It just made you pass out and gave you a headache?
Yeah. I woke up the next day with a headache.
Oh my God. And so when you woke up the next morning and you were still alive, did you feel like that was like a sign from God?
Oh no. I didn't believe that there was a God.
You didn't? Mm-mm. You grew up with a little bit of church.
Right. I was forced to go to Catholic church.
You never felt like you had never had a spiritual experience in church or feel like some sort of indoctrination of no personal God?
Not really. I thought it was just kind of weird.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went to church but no connection.
No. Not that I can remember.
Okay, interesting. All right, so walk me through what happened. So what happened after your juvenile hall experience? You had another attempt?
Yeah, and there was 2 more actually. One was actually another one that happened in juvenile hall, and it was a feeble attempt. But I tried to hang myself with a sheet.
Okay.
From the bunk.
Yeah.
And I pulled my legs up.
Yeah.
And I was but all I do is put my feet down, right? And because there was nowhere to tie myself to that was high enough. But I was choking myself out, and then somebody walked by and saw me, and they came in, they cut me down. Okay.
Yeah, we know somebody. I don't know, were you around, I won't say a last name, but were you around when Michael hung himself in the jail? Dude was 6'7", 6'6", and he really wanted to die. And he did.
Oh, wow.
In jail. So it can be done. So they saw you, and they stopped you.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And then another time was, it was like 4th of July, and my girlfriend and I had broke up, and I was living with my mom and stepdad, and I used to take his firearm quite often.
Oh my God.
And so I used to
Did he know?
He found out later, yeah.
Oh, shit.
So I had his semi-automatic pistol, and I remember I was drunk, and my one friend, he got in trouble by his mom, and they got in a fight, and so she called the cops. He went to juvie hall, and we were supposed to get together and get drunk and watch the fireworks on 4th of July. And his name was Jason. He was my best friend growing up. So so I had the gun, and I thought it was cool that I would grab it whenever I wanted or whatever, and we'd go out in the woods and shoot it or whatever, like, right? Or I thought I was like half tough because I had a gun, right?
Right.
And but I think that most of it was because I had an option, like I had some power finally, right?
Okay.
So I could scare somebody with it, or I could, take myself out, which was always in the back of my mind.
Wow.
Quite often. So I remember I had this leather jacket and it had like an inside pocket. I used to keep it in there, and I pulled the gun out and I jacketed the chamber. I put a bullet in the chamber, and I put the gun up to my head, and I'm sitting on my girlfriend's lawn.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I'm squeezing the trigger, and a car comes around the corner, squealing around the corner, and I got scared and freaked out, and I put the gun back in my jacket. And then I saw it was my friend Chris getting off of work. He worked at Great America. And then I ended up just going to his house, and I shared the alcohol I had with him until I passed out. He knew something was up because I was acting kind of weird.
He knew you had a gun?
Well, yeah, but he knew something was up because I was acting weird,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And I just showed up, and so he just kind of kept me company, and we played cards and drank, and then I passed out, and then went camping with my family.
Isn't that interesting, though, that your friend shows up just at the right moment? Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that was like God doing for you what you couldn't do for yourself?
Yeah, well, that guy, he saved my life. He ended up getting, last year, he ended up getting stabbed in the Sacramento area, and he died.
Oh, he died?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Last year?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah, he had some kids he left behind, wife.
Oh,
yeah.
shoot.
Yeah, some guys were trying to break into his car in Rockland, and he went to jump down and go down there and stop him, and then he chased him a little bit, and they cornered him on this like walking bridge that goes across the freeway, and they stabbed him. He bled out.
Oh my God, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chris saved your life.
Yeah, basically.
And okay, but that was the last time you attempted suicide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have had thoughts.
Right.
Since
but no
then.
serious attempts.
Actually, last year I had a rough year, and I was obsessing on that, and I actually went to the Home Depot and bought a rope.
You did?
Yeah, and I was like teaching myself how to make a noose.
Oh my God.
I never did anything. I ended up telling him myself.
Okay.
Right, and sharing that with people, sharing that with Dr. Jerry, who was helping me at the time, and then I had a counselor, and I'm pretty sure I shared it with Bob, So I was telling him myself, right, but it was still wasn't going away.
Mm-hmm. Did you get on medication?
Oh yeah. I've been on medication for a while. Yeah. So I ended up finding out later on that with all those acting out things when I was young, and the highs and the lows, that I was manic depressant, or what they call today bipolar.
Oh, bipolar.
So I have bipolar disorder along with ADHD.
Okay. Super combo.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the symptoms overlap. Yeah, but I have a lot of concentration and focus issues.
So that's why you weren't diagnosed, because you had multiple symptoms, overlapping symptoms. Got it. Okay.
And it just was kind of a new thing back then, right?
Right.
And then they expect it in kids. It really doesn't develop until you're in your 20s.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay, but anyway, I totally digressed you from your acid story.
Oh, okay. I'm not even sure if we should get into that right now. But I'll tell it anyway.
Okay, give me the condensed version.
So I met this guy at the Pacific Center after a suicide attempt. I'm there. He hits me up and is like, "Hey, dude, I got acid. Come meet me at Oak Ridge." Right before they redid it. Right.
Yeah, at a mall.
So I go meet him, and they had these big walls in the dumpsters where in between those big walls. We went back behind the dumpster there, and we're smoking marijuana, and he shares the acid with me. He kept warning me, hey, just take half a hit. I'm like, dude, no, I need 2. He's like, dude, take half a hit. I'm like, no, I need 2. And this is like the real deal LSD. Like, this isn't the
pharmaceutical grade.
Yeah. It was like real.
Got
so
it.
he was trying to warn me, and I didn't listen.
You wouldn't listen.
No, I was like,
You're
dude,
so
give me
stubborn.
2. Yeah, give me 2. Come on, stop being stingy. Give it to me.
Stop being stingy.
Yeah. Anyway, so then we ended up across the street at the Jack in the Box, which I'm not even sure is there anymore. We went in there, we're acting weird, got some sodas or whatever, and then our idea was to go back to the foster home I was staying at. So we hopped the 68 bus, and we're gonna go back to Morgan Hill, and we're gonna watch Pink Floyd The Wall and Clockwork Orange on their big screen TV on acid.
Okay.
That was the plan.
Sounds totally reasonable.
Yeah. So we hop on the bus. But right before we hopped on the bus, though, I noticed cars were going by, and like the taillights were super long, and right, and
it's kicking in.
Yeah. So then we get on the bus, and then I don't know, I'm just kind of a shit disturber, and so
yes, you are.
The buses, they had the benches that went like this, and then they had the benches that went.
Yeah.
So I was on the first one that went this way, facing the windshield.
Okay.
And
We're on a
they were
podcast.
blue. They were blue, right?
Yes.
And so they were like a plastic material. If you would light it on fire, it would turn black, right?
Well, yeah.
So-
everything.
So
is black
we
when it's
would
on fire.
so we would do that. That was one of the things we would do. And so I started lighting the front of it and turning it black. And my friend was like, "Dude, put that away." And so I did. And then I thought it was a good idea to pull out a Marlboro cigarette, and I lit it on the bus like it's the thing to do. Like it's the 60s or whatever. And you can smoke wherever you want. Right.
And the bus driver
And-
the bus driver didn't smell
So
anything?
I'm smoking on the bus,
Okay.
and the bus pulls over 3 times. In reality, it pulled over 1 time, but in my mind, it pulled over 3 times.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
And then the bus driver comes up to me. He looks like Colonel Sanders.
Oh, shit.
And if you look like the fisheye lens, right?
Yes.
You ever seen the cameras that'll
Yeah.
fisheye? So he comes up to me like that, and he's
You're
like,
tripping
he's
balls.
like, there's no smoking on the bus. You'll have to get off here. I'm like, whoa, what the heck, right?
Right.
So then, so I get off the bus, and my friend Chris is yelling at me, and his voice is normal. It wasn't all distorted like that, but I swear to you, that guy's voice was like that.
Colonel
It
Sanders was tripping you out.
The Colonel Sanders bus driver, I'll never forget him.
Tripping balls. That's
Yeah,
what
tripping
happened.
balls, yes. So then after we get off the bus, we were stuck out there off of Bailey near the IBM, out there in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, we're just going
right?
to call that far for people who aren't from here.
Yeah. So, and we're still far from Morgan Hill, right? We're on the
Right.
edge of San Jose, right? So, what ended up happening was I blacked out and I forgot everything. And then I ended up trying to get in this lady's backyard, and I was pulling on the sliding glass door. And then she called the cops. They showed up. They said I got into a combative stance and threatened them, and they attacked me, and they beat me up and hogtied me and took me to jail, right? Or juvie, right?
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Kind of had it coming, though. I mean,
I did I?
yeah, I think
Okay,
so.
all right.
Like, I'm a woman,
Yeah.
and if some kid came in my backyard, tripping balls on acid, and tried to get into my house, I'd
Oh,
be
yeah.
like, fuck that guy up. Could you please? I mean, you're not
Yeah.
coming across like you're some victim.
I don't remember though. I don't remember much. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But
she must have been scared.
I came to, and
You were hogtied.
I was hogtied, staring at a piece of gum, and smashed into the floor of the police car.
Gross.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's my acid story. That's
Okay,
that.
that's your acid story.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
moral of the story is don't
Don't do
that.
acid.
Don't do that. Points. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that after school special.
Yeah.
That was good. Okay, that was a good story. But let's start moving towards how you get into recovery. So it
Sure.
sounds like the foster family played a part in you.
Right. So after that happened,
Okay.
that event that I just talked about happened, my foster father thought it was a good idea to take me to a 12-step meeting.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
So he took me, and I didn't relate at all. They were talking
How
about
old were
God.
you?
16.
That's
it. Yeah, that was a rough year. So that's what I mean.
Right. A lot happened
So
at 16.
yeah,
Okay.
so he took me to my first meeting.
You were too young, didn't relate.
Oh yeah. I looked
No
at
young
all.
kids
I looked
then,
at all
right?
the differences instead of similarities. That was
Right.
part of the problem.
Got
I was
Were you feeling like you needed to change, though? Were you feeling like your life is not going well, that maybe you should do something different?
I didn't value my life, so I didn't care.
Oh, so you didn't care. Mm-hmm. You had no hope that it could get better?
No.
No, that's what suicide is about, right? Mm-hmm. It has no hope that it'll change?
Yeah, just kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't really care if I lived or died, or, if I affected people around me either, so I didn't think about the consequences, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go to the meeting, you don't relate, and then what happened after that?
Well, they were talking about God, and I really didn't relate to God, right? I didn't know what's God done for me, but, put me through all this crap, or had me live a crappy life and have to suffer all this abuse and, right, make me feel like I want to die, right? And so I didn't feel like there was a God, right, or a higher power. And there was a bunch of old dudes in there, and I was like, yeah, I just looked at the differences, right? Okay. But that was my first exposure. And then, I ended up going to a rehab.
Okay.
Like
a 30-day?
No. Longer than that.
Oh.
Yeah. So I went to that, and
how long? How long was rehab?
6 months.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's actually probably a pretty good idea, right? Do you think that was looking back, do you think that was good for you?
It got me exposed to all the different 12-step programs, because they used to come in and, do meetings, right? And I would try to participate and talk about my experiences, stuff like that. But I must have missed the part where they said, go to meetings, get a sponsor, take the steps, pray and meditate, be of service, right? The things that today I, use to help keep me sober on a daily basis.
Sorry, we had to stop for a second because the dog was barking and it was making me crazy.
That's okay.
Okay.
All right.
So you were talking about your rehab experience.
Right. So and so I must have missed all that, what suggestions that they had said about when you get out of here. Okay. And so I went back to the same neighborhood with the same group of friends, and I managed to white knuckle it for a little while. And by this time I was 18. Okay. So I white knuckled it for a little while, and then maybe 2 months. Mm-hmm. And then one night I thought it was a good idea to have a beer. And then within minutes of drinking some beers, I was up in a bedroom snorting coke.
Wow. Within minutes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you went whole hog right out of the gate.
Right. And then my friend Chris, the one that saved my life, was like, dude, what are you doing? You just got out of, rehab and everything, and you're already, what's going on with you, He was super disappointed that I was already doing coke. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so you relapse, and then what happened to make you, when did you decide that you wanted to get in it for real? Like you were ready to do everything and be sober and...
There were some brief periods of sobriety, always followed by a worse relapse.
Where have I heard that before? Sounds like something out of a book I read one time.
Yeah. Okay. So that was quite common, right?
Okay, so that was...
In and out, in my youth. I first got experienced to a group called Saturday Night Live when I was about 19. Okay. And started going there. And so that had to be, I want to say 1991 or 2.
Okay.
Yeah, 90. Yeah, I think 91. Yeah.
Okay. So you get sober, you get a sponsor. Was Bob your sponsor then?
No, Bob didn't become my sponsor till 93.
93. Okay. Yeah. And Bob is actually my husband.
Right. Yeah. Bob A.
Bob A.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then what happened?
So during that period, I was in my 20s. So from 93 to 96, Bob sponsored me. I went through a deep depression again, and all I was obsessing on. Basically, I was in a low period of my life, and my solution was to run a hose into my car and tape it up, and
Right.
So that was like running through my brain. I would just miss work and not get out of bed. Okay. Not even go to the bathroom. I would pee in 7-Eleven cups. I didn't want to. Right.
Wow, that's super deep depression.
Yeah. Okay. So, so then I ended up sharing that with Bob, and he was like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. I've never experienced anything like that. I don't have any, you should get some outside help. And so I did. Mm-hmm. And then that's when they were able to figure out that I was bipolar, and I started taking lithium at that time.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you got better. Okay. And so let's get into the solution part.
Sure.
So you decide at some point, what was the tipping point? Do you have a tipping point, or when did you start going to meetings and were in it? Is that how, so you got sober through meetings? You went.
Yes.
You went to
So
12 step.
this last time, yeah. So my sobriety is Christmas of 2011.
Okay.
So I share a birthday with Jesus, which is nice.
We love Jesus. Has to be a great day.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
and a lot happened between, like, you were.
Oh, yeah.
You were out of the area for a long time.
right.
Okay.
Moved away for a little while.
Yeah. And when you came back,
was in
you
an
came-
institution for a little while.
You were in an institution for a little while,
yeah.
and you came out with some pretty big tattoos. Did you get tattoos
I-
while you were gone?
yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, and I wanted to talk about them because I think it's
Sure.
very
Okay.
symbolic of where you are, where you have grown from,
Okay,
right? So
okay.
what do your tattoos say?
Oh, I have
Forearms?
pain on one side and fear on the other.
Okay.
And so there's a little thing I'll read really quick. If anyone's familiar with any of this 12-step literature,
Sure.
you might recognize this. So it says, so this is why I have the fear tattoo. It says, the chief activator of our defects has been self-centered fear. Primarily fear that we would lose something we already possessed or would fail to get something we demanded.
Demanded.
Yeah.
So that was the pain and the fear tattoos
Right.
where they were from.
Right. And then
Okay.
the pain one says here, someone who knew what he was talking about once remarked that pain was the touchstone of all spiritual progress.
Interesting. So at some point you get in touch with or develop some sort of spirituality. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah,
you
it was through Alcoholics Anonymous, like the exposure to Alcoholics Anonymous, right? It wasn't through the church or anything like that.
Because
or
you did have experiences. I remember over the years you got really involved in the church, right?
Yeah, there were times when I got super involved in the church and forgot about AA, and then I got drunk,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So I found that if I'm going to get involved in the church, that's great,
Right.
but AA has to be
Your 12 step is your fundamental.
right.
Got it.
Right. So that's more of
Okay.
my church today.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that because
Yeah.
really that's about community, service, and
Fellowship.
and fellowship, and bringing in
Unity,
your
service,
higher
fellowship, right?
Yeah,
Something like that.
Yeah. And so, what is your concept of a higher power? Do you call it God, Jesus? What do you...
Yeah, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, when did you? Was it like a? I grew up in a.
So when I was in that rehab,
Yeah.
the 6-month, the long-term thing, I actually did the sinner's prayer and asked Jesus to come to my heart back then. And it's taken, I think he's always been there, right? But it's been my turning away from him and not wanting to conform my will with God's will.
Is that fair though? Because it sounds to me like you were struggling with like a chemical imbalance that you can't pray away, and you can't step your way out of that. You know what I mean? You can't 12-step your way out of a chemical imbalance, right? So it seems, I don't know if that's fair. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, I love you, my friend, and I don't want you to. It wasn't like you turned your back on God. It's like maybe you didn't have. Anyway, so, but you were able to get back
My point of that is
Yes.
that balance is difficult,
Yes, it is,
right?
right?
So,
Yes.
so I when I get into something, sometimes I can just dive right into it, and that's all I am into. And it happens in periods, right? Then I get burnt out and I get obsessed on something else,
Right.
right? So it's just
Yeah, I
changes.
think that's very typical of people who suffer from addiction, alcoholism, or whatever, is that we sort of are black and white and all in or all out. Balance is very difficult. Yeah, I agree. So you develop a relationship with Jesus Christ. You have spirituality in your life. So you've been sober for how long now?
a little over 6 years.
A little over 6 years. Wow. And what would you have missed out on had you not over the last 6 years? Because you've had some great things.
So, well, I started.
You went to school.
Right. Well, I started that journey, like like I said, I was in that institution for a while, and then I got really motivated, right? And I started going to 12-step groups, and I started getting the help that I needed, right? But I knew I needed to get a trade or get some kind of education in order to survive in the world. Otherwise, I was going to end up doing the same things and getting in some trouble, and maybe. Who knows what would happen?
And you had already been down that path. Okay.
So I knew I had to change. I had to do something different. So I knew that the better times in my life was when I was attending 12-step groups, right? So then I started attending classes at a community college, De Anza College. And then in June of 2011, I got my high school diploma and my AA degree in the same month.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Let me ask you,
Yeah.
because I know that you are a smart guy and you did really well in school. Did that surprise you?
What do you mean?
Well, you did well in school. I mean, I don't know. A lot of us have this idea that maybe I'm not that smart or...
No, I always knew I was. I just wasn't motivated.
Oh, you weren't motivated.
Yeah, yeah. I just didn't want to conform to what society thought was the right path to take. And then finally I was like, you know what, maybe those people were right. Maybe I should just fall in line and not be such a rebel. Right. Well, as much of a rebel. Yeah.
And then when you applied yourself, you did really well.
Right.
Yeah.
So actually, when I started at De Anza, I think I had a 1.6 GPA.
Okay.
When I started, because I had went there previously and did poorly. Right. And then when I left, I had a 3.4 GPA. I got mostly A's.
Yeah.
And then when I transferred to San Jose State, I maintained that. I think I was about 3.4, 3.5 when I graduated.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. And then
what did you graduate with? A Bachelor of Science?
Bachelor, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
but now I'm in huge amount of debt. Student loans, gotta love the government.
Right.
But you know what? If I didn't have that, I wouldn't have survived, right? I basically survived off those student loans.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm working on paying that back. You know.
Yeah.
So.
But you have your degree,
right?
And your life has been largely stable since over the last 6 years.
Right. Actually, I say over the last 10.
Over the last. 10.
Yeah, but I did have a minor marijuana experience for a short period of time. I got involved.
Reset your date.
Exactly.
Got
exactly.
It. Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. So prior to starting the podcast, we came up with a few topics to talk about as far as recovery goes. What have you learned in the last 6 years? Like, what has helped you grow to be the person you are today? Like, what do you do when you are experiencing pain and fear? Do you have a process for that, or?
Yeah, usually. So I've found that one of the most powerful tools next to prayer is the phone. Yeah, the phone.
Sharing the secret, right?
Exactly. So I got to pick up the phone and tell somebody. And these days, like, people don't want to answer their phone. So sometimes I have to make 10 to 15 calls before I get a live person.
Well, you're a sales guy. You're used
to
it, huh?
But I don't get, even before then, right? Yeah. I don't give up until I get somebody. And then, hey, can you have a few minutes? You know, I need to share some stuff.
Right.
And then, and most of the people are people in my group that I do a lot of men's groups. So... yeah, so I reach out to them, and I for some reason, some people I can just really open up to, and others I'm a little more reserved, and I kind of, I don't know.
Give them just the high level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So so sharing the secret really takes the
power out of it,
out of this pain and the fear
right. Because my disease centers in my mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what the book tells me.
That's right.
And so because of that, my magnifying mind can magnify negative things that aren't necessarily true.
Right.
It's just a twisted form of my perception. And so I need to get some clarity or bounce it off of somebody else, or just at least share those thoughts with them. That way, they're going to keep me accountable. And I'm also telling on myself at the same time, right?
Yeah, you share your sick thinking, and then you get positive feedback or suggestions on how to handle things.
Right, or they'll share some stuff about them they've had the similar experiences, stuff like that, Isn't
it amazing how when
the language of the heart.
We make that connection. Yeah, I saw this TED Talk. Do you ever watch TED Talks?
Sometimes, yeah.
There was a great one. I've shared it on the podcast before about this guy who did this TED Talk about how addiction, a lot of people are healed from addiction through connection. And for me, that really resonated, because it's like when you're talking about, when you have these fearful thoughts or pain, that you reach out to somebody else, and then you feel that, like, if you feel understood, you feel heard. And that takes the power out, and then you have like that connection, and then somebody knows who you really are and what you really think, and it normalizes it. I feel like we find a new normal in this lifestyle that we have. Yeah, and I know that you've sponsored other people in 12-step programs.
Right. Well, I also want to touch on one other thing. You're talking about the pain, the fear, all that, right? this guy Pete A showed me this part in the book, and it talks about, we continue to watch for selfishness, self-centeredness, resentment, and fear, and dishonesty. I missed one of those. And when these crop up, we ask God to remove them.
Okay.
We share them with somebody, and we make amends if necessary, and then we go and help somebody else, right? So there's 4 things we watch for and 4 things we do when those crop up. And so I've been trying to live that, right?
Can you say that one more time? So it's...
Yeah, so we continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And when those 4 things crop up, we do 4 things. We ask God to remove it. We tell somebody. We make amends if necessary. And we go and help somebody else.
That's very practical. Don't you love that about this program? Or 12
Well, when it was
steps?
broke down to me like that, because I've read that several times, but when it was broke down to me like that, I remembered it. And now I share it all the time. I love it.
So that's your process. That's magical. Simple, right?
Yeah.
But not easy sometimes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, simple but not easy. No, that's awesome. Let's see. So we're just about coming up on our time together.
Okay.
And typically I wrap up the podcast with, since it's called ODAT, which stands for one day at a time. Yeah. Do you have a daily process or a weekly process that you follow that has allowed you to, heal the past and maintain long-term recovery?
Right. So I pray every day. So I usually start with a 3rd-step prayer and 7-step prayer, and then I pray for other people, and then I read a couple of books. One's
like a
called,
daily reader?
Yeah, so a 24-hour day book.
Okay.
It's a Hazelden book, and then I have another app that's specifically for men called Touchstones, and then I have the Daily Reflections book. When I'm feeling really spiritual, I'll read the 10th step.
Super spiritual.
Right. And then I've been trying to do, like it says in the big book, about asking in the morning on awakening for God to direct my thinking.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then when feelings come up, or something, when I take a moment, take a break at work, whatever, go and be by myself for a second. It's just, God help me, or grant me the serenity, do the serenity prayer really quick, just something to try to connect. Really,
To the higher power.
Yeah, and so I talk to my sponsor on a regular basis. I sponsor other men. I volunteer. I'm of service. I have service commitments, and I just try to really, get involved and stay involved, and yeah. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, no, I think it's, I think what is so key is the service part, right? Because it does build up our self-esteem, being of service, and I think we tend to allow as much goodness as we feel like we deserve. And so that's why I think one of the things that's so important about recovery is doing service, because it builds up your self-esteem. And listen, it's a tough world that we live in, and when we're doing good things, the world, smiles on us. You know what I mean? It seems like things go better when we're putting out all our goodness. Whatever goes out comes back tenfold, right? Yeah. So
I really try to focus on the one day at a time thing. Eluded me for a while. I thought this is a corny saying, right? But it really is one day at a time, right?
Yeah.
And it says we're sober today, contingent upon our spiritual condition, right? Or our maintenance of our spiritual condition, right? So I definitely take that to heart and have to take it a day at a time.
Right. Yeah.
Because when you have one foot in yesterday and one in tomorrow, you're pissing all over today. I don't know.
I think it might be true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely the one day at a time thing. It resonates well, and putting my sobriety first,
absolutely,
above everything. So it's got to come before my family, my friends,
work, my
job, school, kids, whatever, right?
Yeah. First things first, right?
It's got to come first, and don't necessarily have to tell my family that. They kind of know.
Yeah.
But I just kind of show by my actions I can do the same thing. I'm kind of a creature of habit now. Kind of boring. Do the same thing.
Boring is peaceful. Maybe instead of boring, it's like you're consistent.
Okay. Yes. That's a better spin on it.
Boring is not a word I would use to describe you.
Okay.
Yeah. fun. Like you're a singer.
Oh yeah,
My
we didn't
kids
touch on that.
love you. No, we didn't. But you're a singer. You're in a band. What was the name of your band?
Insolence.
Okay, I'm going to put links to your band.
You can put links to the music.
To the music. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll share that with me.
Yeah, sure.
I'll share that because my kids think you are the coolest guy ever.
Oh,
because,
wow.
Especially my little one, because he's
Right.
into the same kind of music
Oh
you
yeah,
are.
yeah. He was impressing me right now, showing me his skills
know.
on guitar and bass. That was
Yeah.
amazing.
He's got some skills.
Yeah.
So
Starting young. I mean,
yeah, not boring. You're not boring in my house. My kids think you're cool.
Oh, okay. Well,
Listen, thank you
honored.
so much for spending this time with me.
Yeah,
being
yeah.
willing to share your story.
Thank you. I know we've been trying to arrange this for a while,
it's been a while.
and I've been kind of flaky, so my
No,
apologies.
not at all. Not
Yeah.
at all. But thank you so much for coming on,
Yeah.
and I think you did great.
Right on. Thank you.
Yay. One last thing before you go, if you enjoyed the podcast today, please don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher and leave a review. And if you'd like to make a donation to the podcast and help me keep the lights on, you can do so by visiting odatchat.com. There's a donation button or membership button on the right-hand side. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.